Baltimore Ravens have a massive matchup with the Kansas City Chiefs in week number 4, and it's a must-win situation for the Ravens in a lot of different ways. Talk about that and so much more coming up on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Ravens. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Kevin Ostreicher, Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much for being here today, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. And also thank you so much to all the everydayers, the first-time listeners. If you're somewhere in the middle, thank you as well. 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage here on Locked On Ravens. We got a jam-packed episode today. It is game day. Happy game day. Ravens and Chiefs face off in that 4 o'clock window. Ravens only won 1 p.m. game so far for their first month of the year, which is crazy to think about. So shows a little bit about the magnitude of these games. And on today's show, we're going to be diving into just how big of a game this is for the 1-2 Baltimore Ravens, who are going up against the 1-2 Kansas City Chiefs. I joked about it all week, just like we drew it up, right? The two of the Titans in the AFC, both looking to avoid a 1-3 start. And that's why, in my opinion, it's a must-win scenario for the Ravens, must-win for the Chiefs as well. But there are other reasons, in my opinion, why it is. So we'll talk about that in the first part of the show. Then we'll obviously dive into key matchup storylines in the second part of the show, and then some players to watch and final predictions in the final part of the show. Now, moving into why I believe that this is a must-win. It's not a must-win in terms of the season is over if they lose. Right. That is not what I'm saying. I think that, again, we're still early in the season, right? There is a long way to go, even after this game, just a month into the year after this one. But it is a must win because 1-3 is a really tough hole to climb out of. And while I have expressed confidence, and I'll continue to, that the Ravens will win the division despite everything they've been through so far this season. And even if they lose this game, I still expect them, even at 1-3, to win their division and make the playoffs. I think it speaks to how weak the division is this season. Baltimore, even with all the struggles they've had, are clear-cut the best team. I mean, you have the Bengals with Joe Burrow being out and the Steelers with that defense looking bad. The Browns, even though their defense is really good, the offense is just abysmal. The Ravens should be able to win the division pretty handily and you know, kind of, even if they don't play their best, scrape out a double-digit win season. I mean, their floor, I think, is still that high. But as I say over and over again on this show, like it's something I absolutely pound the table with. September losses don't matter in September, but they absolutely matter in December when you're fighting for seeding, maybe fighting for positioning with other contenders. They have already lost to one of their competitors who maybe in an ideal world they fight for the 1 seed with in December. That's already gone, right? They already lost that tiebreaker. The Chiefs are another team that they have not looked great. But these are the Chiefs we're talking about. The Ravens have not really been able to beat Kansas City over the course of Lamar Jackson's tenure. We know that. They need to get this win for that. AFC record is a big reason why they need to win this game, right? AFC record right now, it's 1-1. They beat the Browns, but they lost to the Bills. The tiebreakers are really important. Even big losses like that comes back to bite you too. We saw losses come back to bite the Ravens last season when if they had just won one more game, whether it was against Cleveland or Las Vegas or Pittsburgh or whatever, they would have had the 2 seed if they just were able to pull out one of those games, and they would not have had to travel to Orchard Park. The Chiefs are a team that it just feels like they're the Ravens' kryptonite, right? It just feels like that's what it is because it really has been. The Ravens haven't really been able to get the best of Kansas City. We know they had that 2021 win where Odafe Owe was able to punch the ball out from Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They go for it on 4th down. They win that way. But, you know, it's been other big moments of disappointment. The biggest one, obviously, being the AFC Championship game back in 2023. This just does a lot for your mental here. And also the vibes. Right? The vibes around the team, we can be honest about this. The vibes around the team are just really bad right now. Like, it just is. You know, you have Kyle Hamilton calling the fan base spoiled, and those comments getting a very negative reaction from the fan base, and in my opinion, rightfully so on that. You know, the coaching staff, like John Harbaugh, obviously is definitely feeling the stress here. Like, the injury situation has been bad. You know, Lamar is looking frustrated on the sideline. Derrick Henry's fumbling and is distraught. The defense looks terrible. Like, the vibes are not what even though, like, we can say them losing to the Bills and the Lions, like, it's fine that they did that, right? Like, if you had told me before the season, man, the Ravens, they lost to the Bills and the Lions, but beat the Browns, I would have said, yeah, like, that's tough and disappointing, but okay, like, I understand. I would have been like, yeah, that's a pretty logical outcome because the Lions and Bills are good teams. But it's the way that they've lost these games, which has everybody frustrated, right? Has everybody on edge. Is like the Bills come back and they win that game. The Ravens have a 99 win percentage and they can't get the job done. They blow that game. The Lions come in to Baltimore and just out physical the Ravens. They punk them on their home field, essentially. It is not that they are losing or they have lost to these good teams. It is how they are losing to these good teams. A statement win in this game would go a long, long, long way. It's, again, not a must win in the fact that if you lose this game, your season's done. That's not what I'm trying to say. I think that's I think what people will automatically default to when they hear the word must win. I'm making it clear. Like, I don't think that that's the situation here. But could you imagine, and maybe we can revisit this after the game, hopefully not, but could you imagine what the vibes around the team would be if they start 1-3? It'd be abysmal. Like, the Zach Ward chatter would get a lot louder than it already is. The John Harbaugh chatter would, depending on how they lose and what players contribute to that. That would be really bad. And then who knows what we're going to see. I mean, I wouldn't have told you that Kyle Hamilton was going to call his own fan base spoiled. I don't know what we're going to see out of the team this week if the Ravens lose to Kansas City today. The Ravens are in the same exact spot that they were last season. They just got there differently, right? They beat the Browns in week 2 this time around. They didn't start 0-2, but they are, for the second straight season, 1-2 and looking for a big win to get them back to 500 so they can kind of fight and claw their way out of that instead of going to 1-3. And they're playing one of their top AFC contenders. Now, I hope that it goes the same way that it went last time around, but we know how tough of a place Arrowhead is to play. And just to give yourself confidence, like, hey, we can beat these guys, because you know what? 2021, that was a really long time ago, especially in the sports world, in the NFL world, in the football world. That was a really long time ago. I think it would give these guys a lot of newfound confidence, especially with how things have been going. If they can get to Patrick Mahomes and get him down on the ground in that pass rush, that starts to spark up a little bit. You get maybe a turnover or two on the defensive side of the ball. That would be absolutely massive. But the offensive line has a consistent game, even for Derrick Henry, not fumbling the ball, right? He's fumbled in each of the first 3 games. Not fumbling the ball would be a huge boost of confidence for him. So it's a must win in the way of the mentality of this team, I think, improves. They're able to kind of exhale a little bit. It just feels like everybody's stressed out right now. I feel like the team in general, whether it's players, coaches, whoever, I think everybody's feeling the pressure here early on. And with each mistake, each bad thing that happens, each loss, that continues to build and build and build. I think a big win against a good team like Kansas City, I don't care that their offense has struggled the way that it has. Kansas City is a good team. You got to respect them. That's a team that I think, if the Ravens beat, could maybe jumpstart a little bit of their season. And now, if they lose it, again, the schedule opens up enough and the division is bad enough where I have no problem saying here that they're going to win their division, make the playoffs. But you do want to start building those good habits, even though the regular season and the postseason are 2 different seasons. And as people who obviously watch the Ravens, cover the Ravens, or fans of the Ravens, everybody knows how that works on both sides of that, right? Where the Ravens have entered the postseason horribly. 2012, they were terrible to end that season, and they go on to win the Super Bowl. But in 2019, they won 12 straight games and were untouchable. And then they get bounced by the 6 seed Titans in their home stadium. 2023, same thing. You'd even argue 2024, they finish as the best team in the league. So there are just a lot of different things that need to happen here in this game for the Ravens. But a win, I'm just saying, it will go a long, long way. Coming up, we're going to dive into some matchups to watch in this game. We'll dive into some stats from both teams, where each team stands right now in different categories, and a lot more coming up on Locked On Ravens. This episode is brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's a local sports bar packed on game days, the coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades. These are the places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. And there's a local spot in Maryland, Fed Hill, Be More Licks, that comes alive every Sunday during football season. Fed Hill is the place to be, and everyone's in team colors. The energy is incredible, and it feels like the entire block is there cheering together. Those local spots are what makes the neighborhood feel like home, and so many of them run on Square. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/LockedOnNFL to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. And the show is brought to you by DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For the Ravens, Rashad Bateman, he delivered in a big way in week number 3 against the Lions. He and Lamar Jackson connected on clutch play after clutch play, and when the pressure was on, Rashad Bateman certainly came through, even though I know it was a tough loss in week 3. There was no hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance wasn't a fluke. Rashad Bateman is on a streak, especially over the course of his career. And just like Rashad Bateman delivered for the Ravens, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/18. Moving right along on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with you on this Sunday game day edition of the show. We have so much content for you today, as we always do on Locked On Ravens. During game days, we obviously have our game day episode, which is this, and then we will have the Locked On Ravens watch along that's going to be live during the game. So during the game, be sure you tap in here. We'll be reacting to every single play live. We've had a lot of fun on those. I wish we'd have some more wins here for the Ravens. Hopefully that'll happen today, but the watch along will be happening. Then right after the watch along, we're going to have the instant reaction show. And right after the instant reaction show, we're going to have the Locked On Ravens squad show with myself, Sam Njoku, and former Ravens receiver Kadri Ismail. So like 6 straight hours of Ravens content for you during and after the game, which is always a blast. So be sure you check out all that. Of course, the regular Locked On Ravens show is Monday through Friday at 6 a.m. Eastern time. We also have bonus episodes. We had a bonus episode yesterday. Keaton Mitchell, he broke his silence on being benched, and that was very popular, and he certainly had some words to say about it. So we talked about that during yesterday's bonus episode, and we actually instantly reacted too. We do breaking news. It's the reactions. Now, Madubuike officially placed on injured reserve, which we'll get to in a little bit on the show here. So be sure to like and subscribe button in video form and follow along in audio form for that 5 days a week of daily Ravens coverage and content. But let's talk about it. Let's just start off with Madubuike. We got some updates over the course of Saturday. It was a heck of a Saturday, by the way. Lots of Ravens news. Madubuike, it was, I guess, kind of assumed that he was going to miss a decent amount of time here. The neck injury pops up after week 2. Very vague from John Harbaugh and the team about what's going on there. The Ravens officially placed Nnamdi on injured reserve on Saturday. So he will miss the next 4 games, and there's really not an end in sight to this thing, at least not now. Hopefully all he has to miss is the 4, then he'll be able to come back and be good. But we know how scary neck injuries can be, not just from a football level, but from a human perspective as well, as I've been saying. And I just hope he's okay, not just from the football perspective, but from the human perspective. So we'll see. I mean, again, being placed on injured reserve, I saw a lot of the response from a lot of different people just being like, okay, like that's not great, but it's maybe good that we didn't get okay, he's absolutely out for the season or absolutely done for his career, right? I think that some people were bracing for that. So I don't know what the plan is here. I don't know what the injury is. Again, the Ravens have been very secret. Well, maybe secret is not the right word, but very vague about it. I'll just say vague again. That's the word I'll use. It's kind of an interesting situation. So we'll have to see how it unfolds, but Nnamdi's a big loss for a Ravens team that is already struggling with pass rush. The Ravens also placed Roderick Washington on injured reserve. So the Ravens down 2 defensive linemen. We will see how that looks, because the Ravens, they made a lot of other moves as well. They actually promoted Brent Urban to the active roster, as well as Zaire Mitchell-Patton. So the Ravens actually couldn't activate Zaire again from the practice squad, because you can only activate someone 3 times. So the Ravens had to sign him, or they couldn't use him again. So the injured Ravens there. Nnamdi and Broderick opened up a couple spots. That's how they used them. The Ravens also used both of their practice squad promotions for the game, and they elevated Josh Tupou as well as CJ Okoye. So those are going to be the guys that are up for this game. They're going to need all the help that they can get. Jonas Schaefer, the Baltimore Banner, put out some stats about Nnamdi Madubuike, him on the field versus off the field. We talked about these on the Instant Reaction show yesterday. Nnamdi, when he is on the field, the Ravens allow 4.3 yards per carry and a 36.8 pressure rate. When Nnamdi is off the field, the Ravens, they allow 6.3 yards per carry and a 27.9% pressure rate. So without Nnamdi on the field, the Ravens, they give up 2 more yards per carry and about 9, they get 9% less pressure. That pressure rate drops about 9%. And now we don't really know what the timeline and the return is there. It's tough because look, the Ravens, their pass rush stats are not good. They're 30th in the NFL in pressure rate, 30th in the NFL in sacks, and 30th in the NFL at blitz percentage. So I just think that they need to get a little more aggressive, like I do. I think they need to start sending more pressure. Now, again, if that pressure does not get home, it's going to be tough because we know that the top flight quarterbacks, Lamar, Allen, Mahomes, all those guys can dice up a blitz if there just aren't enough guys in coverage. You leave guys one-on-one, there are check down options. You need to get home to Mahomes if you want to be able to have any chance of success. But the Ravens haven't been able to generate pressure before. And you can't just drop guys back into coverage and expect everybody to cover for 6, 7, 8 seconds. So the pass rush absolutely needs to be better. Now, the Chiefs on the offensive side of the ball, that's been the big conversation point this year. Their offensive stats are not terrible. Like passing-wise, they're 18th in the league. Rushing-wise, they are 14th in the league. And I go off of yards per attempt again. That's not horrible. It's also not the Chiefs that we're accustomed to or used to. Now, obviously, the Chiefs playing without Rashee Rice. He is not going to be available for this game, but you still have options. Xavier Worthy looks to be good to go here. And you also have guys like Marquise Brown and Travis Kelce. In the run game, it's Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt, but Patrick Mahomes is actually their leading rusher on the season on less carries than Pacheco and Hunt have. Hunt is averaging 3.5 yards per carry. Pacheco's averaging 3.7. Mahomes is averaging 6.9 yards per carry on 18 carries. So he's getting out of the pocket. He's scrambling. He's making things happen. He's reading the defense. You have to limit Patrick Mahomes in what he's able to do. Because, again, it doesn't matter who he's throwing to. Doesn't matter the offensive line he has. If you cannot get pressure on him and he just sits back in that pocket, goes through his reads, he feels comfortable, you're going to have a bad day as a defense. Like you just are. Now, from a Ravens defensive perspective, we know the stats. I've read them out a billion times. I'll do it again here. Second to last in points allowed. They're last in the league in yards allowed. They're third worst in the league in terms of first downs given up. They're the worst rush defense in terms of touchdowns allowed. They're second to last in the NFL in passing yards allowed. Just, on and on and on and on and on. The conversion percentages aren't great either. It's essentially the underperforming Chiefs offense versus the underperforming Ravens defense that is going to be the battle to watch here. Which one is going to be able to break through and maybe kind of like what we talked about in the first part of the show, maybe jumpstart their year, jumpstart that unit. I hope it's the Ravens defense. Hopefully guys like Roquan Smith can step up to the plate here. Roquan had a great game against Cleveland, but against the two contenders in Detroit and Buffalo, he has struggled. And, that's really tough. It's really, really tough. Guys like Marlon Humphrey have to step up. We talked about the pass rush, right? Like Malachi Starks, can he make a splash play here? Had that Buffalo interception. Josh Allen bounced off of his fingertips. Can he step up to the plate? I think Nate Wiggins has played great this season. He's a guy that I'm really impressed with. On the defensive line, can Aeneas Peebles step up in the wake of Nnamdi Madubuike and Broderick Washington? Can John Jenkins continue his stretch, or I guess his game from week 3 where he was absolutely unstoppable? John Jenkins was, I think, their second best defensive player in week 3. Nate Wiggins, I think, was their number 1. But all of those things have to really go right for the Ravens, and for the Chiefs on defense, their defense has been solid for them, and that's kind of, we've seen the Chiefs kind of transition a little bit from being, this high-powered offensive team to, hey, this team plays defense. And again, it's not like great. They're 15th in the league in pass defense and 11th in rush defense, but look better than their offense is doing. So obviously guys like Chris Jones and obviously Trent McDuffie, George Karlaftis, all those guys going to play very, very important roles for the Chiefs against the Ravens here in week number 4. And coming up in the final part of the show, we will talk about other players to watch, key ones, as well as my final predictions for this game. So be sure to stay tuned. Plenty coming your way on Locked On Ravens. First, this show is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breath work, athletes sweat, all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how they craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Continuing on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher is still here with you on this game day edition of the show. Hopefully everybody's excited for this game. I know I am. Look, Patrick Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson, always really good football, right? So I know the vibes are kind of off right now with the team. I get it, but these are two amazing quarterbacks going head to head, and whenever that happens, I'm all in. So Ravens and Chiefs, 4:00 window here. Again, they've only played one game in the 1:00 window so far this season through a month. But that actually, I think it happened, 2 years ago-ish? Maybe it happened last year. I can't remember. But the Ravens really, from the NFL loves putting that Ravens team in prime time early in the season, or just in the big window. So, look, this game certainly deserves 425. Honestly, you could argue it deserved a primetime spot, but, it is what it is there. Again, Locked On Ravens here is 5 days a week plus more. So we're going to have a lot coming to you today on game days. We do every single game day with the watch along, the instant reaction show, Locked On Ravens squad show. But again, the regular show Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern time. We have daily Ravens coverage for you. We're actually on the YouTube side of things, video version. We are under 100 subscribers away from 15,000, which is a huge goal for me, huge milestone. So thank you for all the support. And be sure, if you haven't already, hit the like and subscribe button in both video form and audio form too. The audio community is growing at a rapid pace, and I can't thank everybody enough, whether you are a video watcher or an audio listener. Be sure to tell a friend, tell a family member if they want some daily Ravens coverage. We're here for them, just like we're here for you on Locked On Ravens, so send them our way. You can also follow me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, at KOstriker34. Let's talk about some good news, right? I feel like this has been kind of they have to win, high stakes pressure. Man, look at all these injuries. Some good news for the Ravens was late last night. Adam Schefter reported that Isaiah Likely, Ravens tight end, is expected to play and make his season debut. Obviously, he practiced in full on Friday, so I think the writing was a little bit on the wall here. But to have that news post drop from Adam Schefter, you just kind of exhale a little bit and you feel excited. Like, again, the Ravens have missed Isaiah from their offense. His athleticism is really key. He's improved as a blocker tremendously over the course of his career, and they miss him in line even. And again, I don't think they're going to necessarily put him in this, Isaiah, you're playing 80% of snaps and Mark is going to, not play a lot. Like, Mark had a great game, first of all, against the Lions in week 3. He came onto the scene there. And also, Isaiah needs to work his way back. Like, again, a misconception, I say this all the time on the show, I talk about it all the time, is that, when a player comes back from an injury, they're boom, they're good to go. They're ready to go. Like, put them all out there, throw all the snaps at them. Isaiah probably needs to get worked in a little bit. So I wouldn't expect him to play like this massive role. Maybe he does. I would love to be wrong here. I really hope I am. But I'm just going to say that Likely makes a couple of big plays for the Ravens in this game, but doesn't necessarily get a ton of volume, considering I don't think he's going to be out there for like a full complement of snaps. I think that'll take a couple of weeks, maybe even next week. But I think this week is more of an easing in process. But again, really good he's back on the field. Very curious about Jair Alexander as well, whether he plays or not in this game. We know he's not played the past 2 weeks as he kind of gets back into football shape. I mean, they need him out there. They need Jair Alexander out there, not the version that we saw in week 1. That obviously is not going to cut it. So you need to defend against the speed of the Chiefs wide receiver group. Obviously, I mentioned Xavier Worthy and Marquise Brown. Juju Smith-Schuster can be a threat for them over the middle of the field. He's not necessarily a speedster, but, the Chiefs have weapons on the offensive side of the ball. Jair would certainly help. I think DeAndre Hopkins, obviously this is kind of he's going back to the place he played for a little bit last season. Made the Super Bowl at Kansas City, did not win it with them, obviously. But, D-Hop has stepped up in the moments for the Ravens that he's been called upon so far this season. I think that's really, really key. But to me, I'm really going to look at the coaches here, right? The coaches are a really big part of this. Look, the spoiled comments from Kyle Hamilton was in response to all the criticism that Zach Orr received. And Kaji Ismail and I talked about that on Friday's edition of Locked On Ravens. And I want to play a clip. It's more about coaching in general. It was in the context of Hamilton's comments, and that's what Q was responding to. We were talking about that. But I thought Q made a very interesting point on kind of what coaching actually is and what the job of the coaches are. Like, it was very, very insightful and kind of gives some perspective. So I want to play that clip from Q and I from Friday's edition of the show, and then we'll react to what he had to say on the other side, because again, I think it's really, really insightful for what coaching actually is in the context of it all. I definitely do not think spoiled was the right choice of words here for Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah, you're right. Looking at the 96-yard drive, the 98-yard drive, you look at the coaches, you look at the players, and that's where it's a combination of both. You need to have the right personnel in a game based upon what you're seeing the other team doing. There are adjustments that you make based upon what the other team is doing and what you feel you can or cannot do. You're talking to your players, and those adjustments, you guys are on the same page. You know your players' limitations. That is where coaching comes in. It's the ability to assist the player in being the absolute best they can be.
And so I think that is important context because of the fact that I don't think that Zach Orr has put his players in positions to make every single right play on a lot of these drives, where you can talk about him deciding to drop back Mike Green and others into coverage, David Ajabo into coverage in week 3 on big third downs. That Mike Green play, that was a big third down. Like, that's not great. You're sending blitzes when they probably shouldn't be sent, and you're playing super soft coverages. Like, and it's not just Zach Orr. Like, Todd Monken, rolling out to the right side of the field. Derrick Henry's wide open, but Lamar, where's he looking? Well, I was looking at the side of the field he's rolling out to. And, I think they should just burn that part of the playbook. I said that yesterday. I think that they just need to get rid of that. The rollouts, they just have a very low success rate. So, look, the coaching staff needs to be better, right? We can talk about the player execution, and obviously Kyle Hamilton is saying that, yeah, like, we're the ones that are going out there making the plays, which, yeah, that's accurate. The players they need to step up too, but the coaching staff has been underwhelming to start, and that includes John Harbaugh, right? Like, John Harbaugh's the head coach. He has his fingerprints all over this team. He needs to be better in these moments as well. So, look, I think that for the Ravens, I've always said, and I said it all this week, and I'll say it again here. For me, I give the Ravens or any team a month. First 4 weeks of the season is kind of a feeling out process. Maybe a team's struggling in a certain area, and then they can turn it around over a week or two, and they say, all right, they fixed that. They were just getting into the groove of things. But after a month, things become a trend. If the Ravens pass rush cannot step up to the plate again, if Derrick Henry fumbles again, if the Ravens lose again, if, the defense continues to look outmatched, those officially become trends to me after 4 weeks. Right now, it's still a feeling out process, but doesn't make the fact that they've lost these 2 games or looked as bad as they have in certain spots, it doesn't make it any easier. It's not an excuse, but you need to kind of work through these things. Hopefully they can. I'm going to say that the Ravens come in motivated. They're coming in after a loss. Chiefs are coming in after a win. I think they're going to win it. I really hope they do. I'm going to say 26-24 Ravens. I think it'll be close, competitive. I know not a lot of people might agree with me on that. I know I might be by myself on that one, but I'm going to say they get the job done. I'm going to say they do. They need to. It goes such a long way, as we talked about. And a lot of people on the team, fan base needs it too. Everybody in Baltimore needs it right now. So that's all I have for you here today on this game day edition of Locked On Ravens. Thanks so much for tuning in. Again, we will have the watch along during the game, so be sure you check into that. We'll have everything, all the reactions, every single play, and then we'll have the instant reaction show as well as the Locked On Ravens squad show after that. So be sure to stay tuned for all of that. I'll see you right back here soon on Locked On Ravens.